Namaste and welcome. I'm Pratim Ranjan Bose and you are listening to my podcast, Perspective. In this episode, I'll share my views on why the recent spate of state elections in India indicate the beginning of a new phase in the country's growth paradigm. The unparalleled popularity of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's BJP since 2004 and the eclipse of the coalition era in India's national politics has had many fallouts. The most critical of them is state elections became less significant in national politics. BJP lost state elections in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Chhattisgarh in 2018, but won maximum seats from these states in 2019 parliamentary election. However, what is true for BJP is not applicable to the principal opposition, Congress, simply because India's grand old party, Congress, failed to retain its pan-Indian popularity. The pan-Indian brand recall of Congress has been on a steady decline since 1989 and particularly after 1996 when Sonia Gandhi took charge of the party. Sonia is widow of former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. For next 2 decades till 2014, both Congress and then upcoming BJP were strong only in pockets and dependent on smaller parties which were strong in a state or two to form the government. The coalition experience was not good. Smaller parties forced the federal government to compromise national interest for narrow reasons. India had to call off a defense deal with Sri Lanka because a small coalition partner in Delhi wanted to pursue the interests of its coalition partner in the state. BJP broke the pattern and got majority on their own in 2014. Congress, now led by Sonia's son Rahul, did not learn any lesson. They failed to present themselves as an alternative to BJP. Congress's seat share declined further. And more they became weaker, Congress depended more on coalitions. The lack of a rival force helped BJP to emerge as practically the only party capable to give India stability. They are making hay of the Tina factor, meaning there is no alternative. Given this perspective, Congress's failure in the recent state elections in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Chhattisgarh has further weakened its prospects in 2024 election. Congress was in power in Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh. In MP, a 20-year-old BJP government was re-elected for the fifth term with landslide majority. In Telangana, Congress unseated regional party BRS. South Indian states being a stronghold of smaller parties, Congress's win in Telangana indicates rising aspiration of voters to be a part of the national political mainstream. The move will help BJP in the longer run. To sum up, the current spate of state elections has weakened Congress's prospects in 2024 election. Their coalition partners will now be more demanding and that will further improve the Tina factor in favor of BJP. For BJP, this election was merely a show of strength. They were already ahead in the race for 2024. The state elections put them way ahead. In all probability, BJP will return to power in 2024 for a third term with an equally dominant majority. And that has important positive fallouts on the national economy, part of which is visible in the bull rally in the stock market. But that's only the tip of the iceberg. That India failed to attract sufficient foreign direct investment or FDI over the last 30 years of liberalization is known. Leave alone China, even Vietnam came up too fast to Indian standard. Political instability translating into policy inconsistency was a primary factor behind this failure. The blame in the past went to democracy. Modi's BJP gave India reprieve from these cliches. A democratic India became more stable, stronger, and growth oriented. Global investors are convinced of policy consistency. The result will be felt in the days to come. That China is facing headwinds both politically and economically improves India's prospects to attract FDI of unprecedented levels. Modi's call for Make in India may finally bloom, adding context to the much talked about China Plus One global sourcing strategy. Internally, the latest round of state elections has further strengthened the case for reforms. The Congress government of P.V. Narasimha Rao liberalized Indian economy in 1991. In the subsequent years, Congress became increasingly dependent on coalition to remain in power, and Congress-led governments had been distinctly slow in market-oriented reforms. In its latest avatar, when the party's fortunes are declining at the national level and it is desperate to win state elections, Congress became anti-reform. In 2022, the Congress governments in Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh rolled back the 2-decade-old pension reforms for government employees. The footsteps were later followed by Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, and Punjab. This was bizarre because India might be slow in reforming, but the country had never rolled back any reform of this scale. Moreover, the Congress-led federal government between 2004 and 2014 backed this reform wholeheartedly. The rollback had huge fiscal implications and was unnerving to the global investors. Going against reforms and falling in the trap of socialists and communists is not the only sins of Rahul Gandhi's Congress. They tried to revive the same caste issues that had once been the reason behind the rise of coalition era. But fortunately enough, this time the voters were alert. Congress lost miserably. Prime Minister Modi is entrusted to ensure that the economy does not go off rail. And that is a big takeaway. India appears to be all set to enter a new phase in its economic and political history. Thank you for listening Perspective. If you like this episode, please share and subscribe. See you next week. फिर मिलेंगे.